Yeah, I know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. I'm going to tell you the story about penitentiary hustle, right? Penitentiary hustling is how you get money in here, right? A lot of people get money in different ways, right? Selling drugs, selling food from the chow hall, or making meals with the commissary and selling. You know, you might make a piece and sell this piece of $2 a slice, $2 worth of commissary slice, and you'll find people that'll do that, right? You might sell your services as far as like washing clothes or washing people's tennis shoes, you know, because a lot of times, man, people can't afford to buy tennis shoes every other month, so they'll make sure that the shoes that they have are taken care of and cleaned and washed and stuff like that, so they still look good and smell good. It's just a lot of ways to make money in here. The penitentiary hustle is broad and wide, right? But one of the way that I'm going to be telling you about today is called the inmate officer shakedown, right? That's a way that a lot of people that have been locked up make money that most people, I would imagine, on the streets have never even heard of. And let me tell you how that works, right? I came across this man at another facility years ago, man. I didn't understand what was going on, right? But there was this guy, man. We're gonna call him Jack. And Jack, he worked down in the admin building. And the admin building is like where all of the people that run the prison work. You know what I'm saying? From the fire marshal all the way up to the warden. Everybody that has anything to do with the main part of the administration, that's where they work. And Jack, you know what I'm saying, he was the rock man down there. He cleaned up, you know what I'm saying, the floors and the toilets and kept the place clean and smelling good and stuff like that, right? And made sure that all the supplies that were needed was always stocked on the shelf, and that they, you know what I'm saying, that the place ran smooth. And he was the main part of all of that, right? And he had a reputation with the staff, with the people that ran the prison, as a solid dude, a good guy, you know, somebody that they could depend on. But this particular person, Jack, you know, he had gotten cool with this particular high-ranking officer, right? And this high-ranking officer had a stellar reputation as being somebody that followed the rules and did all the things that he needed to do to make sure that the prison ran smoothly. So here's the thing, right? One day, you know, well, throughout the week, right, you never know when they're going to shake down and get people, you know what I'm saying, and caught up with different things, phones, drugs, extra clothing, anything and everything during the shakedown. If they catch you with anything that you're not supposed to have on your list, you get written up for that, right? And if you get a write-up, depending on your circumstances, you'll lose privileges. You could lose your parole if you've already gone up for parole and they catch you with something that they say that you shouldn't have. You can get written up for that, right? And people, man, listen to me. People will do almost anything, especially somebody that's going up for parole that gets caught up in a situation like that, most of the time on a humbug. And when I say on a humbug, it's meaning like it might be their cellar that's doing something. In penitentiary rules, you don't say nothing, because if you say something, you can get hit. But if you don't say nothing and your cellar don't take the charge, guess what? Both of y'all get the write-up. And then you got to let the system play out, right? Even though you didn't do anything, if you say something to everybody on the compound, even though you didn't do anything, they're going to call you a snitch. Even if that person don't step up, they still expect you to keep your mouth shut, right? So in those situations, a person will do almost anything to get out of that write-up. So Jack, he had peeped that. You know what I'm saying? He peeped that, right? So his hustle started out is getting people's write-ups taken care of, right? Because he knew this particularly high-ranking official within the department that would do that, help him out on that, right? He was one day when he worked in the admin building, he took his breaks in the break room too, right? And every now and then, somebody from the administration will go in there and they might be sitting down eating lunch or talking or having a cigarette or something like that, right? And Jack would strike up a conversation with them, or they would strike up a conversation with Jack. And while they be sitting there talking, Jack is always looking for that angle, right? And in this particular situation, he was talking to this particularly high-ranking official, and he was like, man, a partner of mine got rolled up this morning because his cellie wouldn't take the charge when they came in there and they busted him with a phone. So the person, the officer, he said, so what's your friend's name? And now at this time, Jack thinking he's going to get some help, so he tells the officer his friend's name, and the officer looks it up on the computer. He said, yeah, I see he got possession on here, right? And he said, do you know if he used the phone? He really trying to see if Jack gonna be a snitch, right? And Jack was like, man, look here, I don't even answer questions like that. I was just trying to talk about my partner, seeing if I can get him some help, right? Because he's going up for parole in like 4 or 5 more months, and he can't go up for parole with a write-up. He's gonna automatically get denied. So he was like, is anything that you can do for him? You know what I mean? And he had been talking and kicking it with this particular officer for quite some time, and the officer was like, well, shoot, let me look into it. I'll see what I can do. But the officer doesn't come back. He doesn't do anything. He just talked a good talk, right? But a few months later, he finds himself in a conversation with this particular officer again. And this time, this officer is stressed out about some things that's going home and all this and that. And he lets it come out of his mouth that, he wished it was some kind of way he could pay some of the bills that he's got and all this old kind of stuff, right? So Jack was like, well, shoot, if you would have listened to me last time, you had an opportunity to get you some money. He said, I don't know how much he would have paid, but dude would have paid to get that write-up off of him. Now, you know what I'm saying, he's probably not even going to be able to go home because he's got this write-up on his jacket. So the officer tells me, he said, look, he said, man, if it's something that I can do about that write-up, would he still pay now? He said, I don't know. He said, how much are you talking? He said, shoot, at least $100. So Jack tells me, he said, man, let me go back and holler at him, man. I'm pretty sure he'll pay that. So before Jack left, the officer said, make it 2. He said, you got to make you some money too. So Jack leaves up out of it. He goes to tell the dude. He said, look, for $300, I can get this write-up off of you. So the dude tells this Jack's partner, he said, man, you get the write-up off me, man, I got you. And then Jack tells him, no, he said, money up front. And if the write-up don't come off, I'll give you all the money back. But you got to pay this money up front because I got to pay somebody. So at that time, the dude that Jack's talking to, he's like, oh, you got somebody in your pocket? Jack tell him, yeah. So I got somebody messing with me. He said, but it's going to cost you $3 and you can't say nothing about it to nobody. No questions asked. So dude gets the $300 and he gives it to Jack because he got to get green money. Now, ain't no sending it or nothing like that. Back in the day, they did that, but they do want green money. So Jack's partner goes to get the green money. He gives it to Jack. And Jack takes the $100 and he pockets 2. But he tells the officer that it was 2 like they agreed on, but it was really 3. So Jack putting $200 in his pocket. He get an officer 1. And he tells the officer, man, get that off his jacket. So the officer makes his moves and he does this and he does it. And he gets, all of a sudden, the write-up disappears. Now, everybody know he had this write-up, but the write-up disappears. But nobody had any reason to look at his file to see what was going on. He didn't try to make anything happen. He didn't try to become a trusted. He didn't do any of that. He just leaned back in the cut, waited for the day that he went up for parole. And when he went up for parole, nobody noticed a thing. Nobody noticed a thing. He went up for parole and he was granted parole and he went home. And when he was granted parole and he went home, before he went home, people were talking about, man, he just had a write-up. He just had a write-up. So dude didn't say anything about what Jack had done for him. He kept that to himself. You know what I'm saying? Most people in here run their mouth. But Jack saw that as an opportunity to promote the business. To promote the business. So he started to notice and keep up with all the people that was getting write-ups, because you got a lot of people on the compound getting write-ups, especially dope boys and gang members. So he would tell them, I can get this taken care of. He only did the most serious one, people that got caught with pocket knives, people that got caught with phones. And most of the time, these were people that were going up for parole or were going to be going up to become a trustee. They had something to lose. So he would pick and choose because he can't ask everybody, but he mainly liked to deal with the gangs because gangs, they would keep it to themselves because they felt like they didn't want anybody else to be able to benefit from that unless they came through them. They were going to try to cut in on the hustle later on. So he did a lot of business, and this particular officer made a lot of money. A lot of money. But see, Jack got greedy. And the officer got greedy too. They wanted more money. Even though Jack was taking 200 of the 300 and the officer never knew it was 300, he only assumed it was 200. But when you're doing something like that, you don't ask a lot of questions and you don't have a lot of back channel checking up on each other, because if you do that, you expose yourself. And the officer did not want to expose himself to anybody. He didn't want to expose himself to anybody other than Jack, because the more people that knew about what was going on, the more risk that he would be in. So he wanted to keep it low. So he was like, look, I need to get more than what I'm getting. And now this particular officer, he had access to the safe. And when I say the safe, I mean where everything got confiscated. Like if they bust somebody with some drugs or phones and stuff like that, he could get access to that. And when you put stuff in that safe, from my understanding, they say they got to log it in. So before they would even log that stuff in, they had to go through him. Now, nobody knew that. Jack didn't even know that. But he let Jack know he had a way to get to the things that would be confiscated, particularly the phones. And he'd give them back for a fee. Now, you got to keep in mind, a phone in the penitentiary is an item. It's a commodity, man. It's a commodity. So Jack picked his poison. So when certain gang members would get popped, he would go to the head of the gang and he'd tell them, between me and you, I can get that back for a fee. I can get that back. Now see, keep in mind, the officer wanted more than $100 now. So he told him it was going to be $2 to get anything like that back. So he did that. But Jack, he increased his price. So he told him it would be $5. And he would pocket $3 and give the officer $2. And then they'd get the phone back. So when one of the gang members got caught, he went to the head of the gang, and they did that. The first time they did it, everything was smooth selling. Everything was smooth selling, and the gang member, you know what I'm saying, they got the phone back from the gang leader. They thought they had something. So it made them careless. They were more frivolous with leaving it out because they felt like they were making plenty of money. We'd get it back. We'd get it back. But here's the thing about that. When you're getting money like that, people start watching because they want to figure out who has the nerve to do something like that. They want to figure out who that is because they want to really approach them themselves. So they start watching to see who Jack was talking to, but it was hard because if they wasn't down in the administrative building, they couldn't see it. But see, these gangs, they have people that are friendly to them or that are part of the gang that work down in administration. So they would tell them, look, see who dude talks to. Pay attention to who he's talking to. So they start watching Jack. Jack don't know it though. See, that's the arrogance of anybody's hustle, right? You start to lose sight that everybody, you know what I'm saying, they might appreciate your hustle, but they want the hustle for themselves in here. So they'll sit back and they'll watch you do your thing and making moves, and when the time is right, they'll try to cut in. So they're watching Jack. And they see that he's talking to this particular officer, right? So they report that back to the head of the gang, and then the head of the gang say, okay, we need to move in on that so we can get due for ourselves, right? So the head of the gang, he tell the brother that's a part of the gang that works down in the administration, but he said, man, look here, approach him and tell him thank you for what he did. Just say that and keep it moving. So the young dude, he understood what was being answered to him. So he approached the officer down there. He said, man, appreciate what you did for us. And then they kept walking. Now the officer looked at him. I'm talking about eyes got big as a $50. He spooked because he don't understand how did this get out. Everything has been so on the low, right? So he gets at Jack immediately. And he's shooting off at Jack. Talking about, man, you running your mouth. You're doing this and you're doing that. You're trying to get me fired. And Jack said, what are you talking about? I haven't said anything to anybody. Not one word. So Jack got to thinking about it. He said, man, dude been watching me. and he's figured it out. So Jack tells the officer, he said, look, this is what you're going to have to do. The next time he approaches you, ask him what is he talking about. And then, so we'll know exactly what he's on. He said, but then you write him up for solicitation and have him put in the hole and lose his job. So the gang member does it again at the behest of the head of the gang, right? He goes and says it again, trying to pick him. So this time, the officer does exactly what Jack told him to do. But the problem in that is Jack didn't expect the dude to tell the officer too much as far as like how much he charged him. See, so the dude, the gang member told the officer, he said, yeah, that $500 we gave you, man, to take care of the phone. So the officer's thinking in his head, but he don't say nothing. He's like, $500, oh, okay then. Because he said, you know what I'm saying, he told Jack it was just going to be $400. So anyway, they lock up the dude, put him in the hole. Now this rattles the gang members. The head of that gang, anyway, he says, man, we must have been off base. Now he's thinking he done messed up the move. So he says something to Jack. He said, man, what happened out there, man? He said, man, Jack played him like this. He said, man, dude, when it said something to an officer out there about appreciate you, what you did for us and all this and that, right? For, getting the phone back. And he locked him up for solicitation. Imitation. Yeah, solicitation. So when they locked him up, the gang member, he's trying to say, man, what's going on, this, that, and the third, and he's back in the back. And when the police step back up to him, he don't say nothing because he know he can't say nothing. Can't say nothing. Now the gang leader, he trying to tell Jack, man, he don't know why dude did that. He's trying to play him to the left and say, man, I don't know why he did that because he wasn't supposed to say nothing to nobody. You know what I mean? But Jack don't know that it's the head of the gang that's the one trying to move him out the way. He don't even know that's what's going on. But he's trying to get Jack out of the way. But he thinks he's missed. So Jack, he peeps the move. He sees that this young dude wouldn't have said that without the gang leader telling him that. So he goes back and he tells the officer, he said, look, we're going to shut down for a while. We might have a problem. He said, man, I think dude and them trying to find out who you are. So the officer tells me, he said, I got it. We'll just shut down for a while. So you got a lot of people getting caught up around that, getting write-ups and getting caught with phone, getting caught with drugs, and Jack is just leaning back. Leaning back. He's missing all of this money. But it's understandable. It's worth it. You got to miss some to make some. So now, after about 2 or 3 months, Jack steps to the gang, head of the gang, and he tells me, he said, look, the heat has died down. You know, anything that happened, man, just holler at me, man, we can get it taken care of. But he said, man, don't let nobody come down there talking again because it spooked my guy. You know what I'm saying? He heard about what you did to the other officer, and now he was spooked. So, you know, if he don't want to do nothing, we can't do nothing. So this threw the head of the gang off for just a little bit. Just a little bit. So everything kept moving, kept rocking, right? But what Jack didn't know is a peon out there, he peeping the move. He see what's going on. And he ain't got nobody to report back to. He ain't got nobody that he wants to tell. He wants to know for himself because he's trying to find his own way in to get a hustle on. But he hears about what goes on the compound. But when you a peon, you don't say nothing. You lose all the way around. So he just listening because his seller's a gang member and his seller like to run his mouth. So he just listening, but he's trying to hold it to himself. Listen to what I'm trying to tell y'all. Everybody's got an angle in here. So that when the peon, he's watching, he sees what's going on, and he waits for the opportunity. He waits for the opportunity. And then guess what? One day Jack gets in trouble. He gets in trouble. And the officer tells him, man, I can't pull the write-up. I can't get you out of this. You're going to have to go to the hole. Because the write-up happened in the admin building. They caught him eating some food in the rec room, in the break room that belonged to one of the officers. Some no-no in here. So they wrote him up. The officer couldn't admit to giving it to him, so they wrote him up for stealing. And he lost his job. Now, it jeopardized the hustle. Because Jack wasn't going to be out there to see what was going on and be able to talk to him in private. He would have to take chances on trying to talk to him whenever he would come on the compound, and he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to do that. And Jack didn't want to go and talk to any other gang members that might have a gang brother that's out there, right? So he stepped to this peon, not knowing that the peon already knew. So when he stepped to the peon, he told the peon, look, you want to make some money? And the peon was like, yeah, I want to make some money. What we got to do? And he said, man, look here. I'm going to give you the game. But if you try to do anything to cross me out, he said, it's going to be problems, man. He said, you understand where I'm coming from? So don't play no games with me, man. So the peon told him, he said, man, I'm with you, man. Let's do this, man. Let's get this money. So you're going to have to tune into the next episode to find out how much money they made and what went down with this situation, right? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I'm getting so